Hey guys, welcome back to Recap. Today, we're diving into the breakdown of Shiver Me Timbers, a slasher flick that dropped in 2025, another twisted entry in the wild world of Popeye horror adaptations. I've already covered the first one, Popeye's Revenge, and the second, Popeye the Slayer Man. And now, this is the third and bloodiest chapter yet. Let's get into the story. The nightmare begins on April 12, 1986. We see a mother and daughter walking through a green field. Suddenly, both scream in horror. They've stumbled upon scattered human body parts, shown in a brutal Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. But to understand how this gruesome scene came to be, we need to rewind to the previous day. A mysterious comet called Halley's Comet was passing near Earth. To witness it in peace, many people had traveled far from the city, including 3 friends: Olive Oil, her brother Castor Oil, and Castor's girlfriend, Selah. They headed out for a camping trip to enjoy a clear view of the meteor shower that night. Interestingly, the number plate on their car matches the one from A Nightmare on Elm Street, a subtle nod to horror fans. The film then gives us a brief history lesson. Since ancient times, humans have feared comets, believing they bring disaster, plagues, death, destruction. It was thought that comets were God's way of punishing mankind. In fact, many 80s horror films used comets as the reason behind bizarre events: zombie outbreaks, alien invasions, strange plagues. And since this movie is also set in the 80s, we know something similar is about to unfold. As the trio drives toward their campsite, an old man suddenly steps in front of their car, calmly smoking a pipe and saying, "I am what I am, and that's all I am." Yep, it's Popeye. And if you're a slasher fan, you already know, when a creepy old guy appears during a road trip, he's there to drop a cryptic warning. Of course, the kids don't take him seriously. He lets them go, planning to go fishing that night himself. At the campsite, 2 of their friends, Trent and Liz, are already there, all set up. Meanwhile, Olive notices 2 guys, Skits and Spike, beating up an old man named George nearby. But as soon as they notice Olive isn't alone, they back off and flee. George clutches a comic book titled Killer Comet, ranting that the comet will turn people into mutants. A second warning, this time from another old man. Again, no one listens. They toss him some cash and move on. Olive, however, seems distant. She's troubled. She got into a top university but isn't sure whether she should go. After much thought, she rips up her admission letter and throws it away. A small but important detail: the dean's name on the letter was Betsy Palmer, the actress who played Jason's mom in Friday the 13th. Speaking of references, this movie throws in 80s horror movie nods in nearly every line, often forced, just for the sake of it. Not all of them land well. Later, 2 more friends arrive, Steve and Monique, with a supply of drugs. By nightfall, the entire group is partying hard. Meanwhile, Popeye is peacefully fishing when suddenly the meteor shower begins. One tiny meteor lands straight into Popeye's pipe. He inhales, and that's it. The transformation begins. He doesn't die. Instead, he mutates into a horrifying monster. Climbing out of his boat, the first people he encounters are those 2 thugs, Skits and Spike. Drunk and unaware, Spike punches Popeye in the face. Big mistake. In true Jason style, Popeye returns the favor, only much worse. With a single punch, he explodes Spike's skull. Terrified, Skits runs for his life. But Popeye's rage isn't over. His pipe broke during the scuffle, so he grabs one of Spike's bones and turns it into a new smoking pipe. Savage. Here's something cool. The mutated Popeye's face is completely CGI, including the kill. It wasn't done with practical effects, but created entirely through computer-generated imagery. That's the difference. Practical effects happen in front of the camera. CGI is built behind it. Skits runs straight to the group, panicked and shouting, "That giant sailor is coming!" He's the 3rd person to warn them, but just like the others, they brush him off, not even noticing he's drenched in blood. A little later, Steve gets up and heads to the outhouse. The walls are scribbled with names of horror legends: Wes Craven, George Romero, Eli Roth, Rob Zombie, Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter, Sam Raimi, and John Waters. Not full names, but clear hints. Inside, Steve lights his pipe and relaxes until Popeye arrives outside, puffing on his own freshly lit pipe. He grabs Steve's head and twists it so hard that it pops right off, which he then casually tosses aside before sitting on Steve's lifeless body to relieve himself. Yeah, he literally sits down on it. Meanwhile, a couple heads into a tent while the rest of the group lies under the stars. They start talking about the Terminator. Rumors of a sequel are floating around. Fun fact, this movie is set in 1986, and Terminator 2 dropped in 1991. Castor casually mentions that Critters just released on April 11th, 1986. The dude knows his stuff. The group splits up to find Steve. Bad idea in a slasher movie, obviously. As they head off, Popeye sneaks up to the tent. Inside, Trent and Liz are getting intimate, but Popeye joins in, and not in a good way. He kills Trent gruesomely, then rips off Liz's head too. Clearly, this guy has a thing for heads. Back in the woods, Olive and Monique stumble upon a meteor, while Castor and Scylla find Steve's mutilated body and severed head. Panic sets in. And just as Monique begins to confess her feelings and propose to Olive, another meteor slams straight through her forehead. Brutal. Castor and Scylla race back to camp, and Olive heads there too. The three of them meet midway and exchange the horrific news. Steve's decapitation, Monique's death, everything. When they reach camp, they're stunned to see Popeye calmly sitting by the fire, sharpening his knife. Only now, he looks younger. Way younger. But their main concern is escaping. The car keys are still in a bag inside the tent, but who's going to risk going in? Olive volunteers. She crawls stealthily to the tent, grabs the keys, and thinks she's made it out undetected. But Popeye grabs her and yanks her out. Just as things are about to go south, Castor distracts him, buying Olive enough time to escape. Olive and Scylla make it to the car, but the keys are useless now. The meteors have wrecked the engine, and worse, Castor is still being chased. Olive remembers an old factory nearby. She figures Castor must have headed there, so she and Scylla rush off, but not before stumbling across what's left of George's body. Turns out, his creepy comic was right all along. As Olive and Scylla went looking for Castor, they suddenly saw him walking toward them. But the real problem was what followed behind him, Popeye. Scylla jumped in to save Castor, but with one brutal hit, Popeye threw her aside like she was nothing. Then he grabbed Castor and shoved him alive into a container full of toxic waste, melting him alive. Castor and Scylla didn't even get to hold hands one last time, a classic tragic Bollywood-style farewell. Meanwhile, Olive reached the factory where she met an old man in a wheelchair, holding a shotgun. After hearing everything, he took her inside and, like every horror movie, started giving her life lessons. But the only useful thing he said was about something he had built, something that could take down Popeye. We didn't see what it was, just heard the name, Bernice. Whatever it was, it even made Olive freeze in fear. Before they could do anything with it, a noise outside pulled the old man away. And as he left, he said the classic horror line, "I'll be right back." But as every slasher fan knows, anyone who says that never comes back. And right on cue, Popeye beat him to death. Scylla reached just in time to witness it. Popeye turned to kill her too, but that's when Olive attacked. Sadly, Popeye tossed her like a rag doll. Just when it seemed like game over, Skates, that same carefree boy, jumped in and pulled the meteor piece out of Popeye's pipe, causing some serious damage. But that only made Popeye angrier. He stomped on Skates' face, crushing it just like in Popeye the Slayer Man. The meteor landed near Olive. Even though holding it burned her hand, she managed to use it to activate Bernice, a giant chainsaw. The moment Popeye saw it, even he muttered, "Shiver me timbers." He was shook. Then began the final showdown, something straight out of Mortal Kombat. Popeye was dominating at first, until he found a hammer. With that, he started fighting back hard. Looked like he might win, but Olive wasn't backing down. She slashed his stomach wide open, dropping him to the ground. Finally, it was over, or so she thought. When the cops arrived in the morning, Popeye's body had vanished. Olive's fear returned. Weeks passed, and now there were reports Popeye was spotted in New York. And Olive? She's not the same girl anymore. She's ready. With a mechanical arm, she's become the next Ash Williams. And that's how this movie ends. Believe it or not, the film was shot in just 10 days. And yeah, the plot is kinda thin, but it has one thing that makes it unforgettable. CGI kills. Unlike the originals Popeye's Revenge and Popeye the Slayer Man, which used practical effects, this one leaned fully into CGI, from Popeye's face to every single kill. This makes it unique, a slasher with retro vibes but modern effects, something fans won't forget easily. So what did you think of the movie? Drop a comment and tell me which one was better, Popeye the Slayer Man, Popeye's Revenge, or this one. Let's settle the debate once and for all.